With everybody still stuck inside, it's giving me a chance to catch up a lot on what is considered to be the modern mobile market. And things have certainly changed dramatically in the past decade. And for today's critical thought, we're going to take kind of a look at what mobile games are like now and how much things have changed in terms of what is kind of like the most modern trends or the most popular trends in this space. The mobile market has grown a lot in the last 10 years, and if we kind of take a look at how much the design has changed, it's really like 10 years of mobile has been about 20 years of everybody else. And when most people think about mobile games, and I know the audience here is predominantly console and PC, we tend to think about kind of the first and second generation of mobile games. Farmville, Clash of Clans, Angry Birds, Jetpack Joyride, games along those lines. And those games were mega successful. But over the last like 3 to 4 years, maybe a little bit more than that, it has become a very different space in terms of what games are growing. For one thing, we're seeing a lot of games based out of China, Japan, and like kind of like the eastern part of the world kind of becoming more popular over here. And part of that has been kind of this growth in terms of the design. Again, when we look at kind of first generation games, they weren't really meant to hold your attention. You're going to play it 5 to 10 minutes on a bus. You're waiting around. It's something you're going to do in your downtime. Today, mobile games represent probably one of the more important aspects of game development, and that is progression. And this is the one area where mobile tends to excel far better than its console and PC peers. And we can see this with kind of how many AAA and AA developers chase the live service, games as a service kind of model. The only game that really, I think, has done phenomenally well on that side would be something like Warframe, and then maybe to a lesser extent Destiny. But other franchises like Anthem, Marvel's Avengers, and I think a few others that my mind is blanking on, just kind of came and then they died. And there really wasn't much more to say about it along those lines. And the problem that these games have faced is the fact that they are still trying to chase after the MMO kind of design standpoint. And as we've said before, the MMO genre has been pretty much capitalized and monopolized by World of Warcraft as the 10 billion pound gorilla. And everybody tried to chase after WoW in some way, shape, or form, and never really ended up getting to them. So what mobile developers have done is that they've kind of fully embraced progression and the progression curve when it comes to trying to get people into these games. And they've done it so well, it's down to a science. So how this works is that we can break down these games into three distinct phases. You have the early game. This is where the player's going to make the most rapid of progress with the least amount of game systems. So this is when you're starting a game, you're going to be getting lots of resources, you're going to be leveling up almost after every battle, you're going to be getting summons and items and gotchas and banners and loot boxes and all that other wonderful stuff. You're not going to be able to fully make use of everything, but the game is just essentially drip feeding you progression very quickly. And this is where the dopamine levels just really go high. Again, even with something like Genshin Impact over there, that very quickly in that game, you're going to be doing summons, you're going to be getting loot, you're going to be seeing giant dragons and gods and flying and gliding and all that. And that is on purpose, as we've said before, as I've spoken with Ramin about. The early game is there to wow and be as bombastic as possible because they want to get the foot in the door. Now, like we said, you're not getting access to everything in these games for good reason. They want to make sure that you can walk before you can run. So they're not going to unlock super raids or character combining or all the more grindy, more nitpicky, or very finicky kind of stuff until they know you're in it for the long haul. Speaking of which, when we move on to kind of the middle portion of the game, and the early game of any free to play or mobile game, if we're talking about like the general consumer, somebody who may play for an hour a day, maybe 30 minutes a day, that should be about a week of play. No more than 7 days, I think, for getting through the early game. Now, the middle portion is where the leveling and the super progression, it slows down. The dopamine has long been spent. You're not going to be summoning characters or rolling on banners every day or, every few minutes unless you're spending money. This is where the majority of the game systems are fully unlocked. You're not really trying to give the player more stuff at this point. You're trying to see if they are committed for that long haul. And this is where a lot of games, or this is where it's a lot of the make it or break it time. Because if somebody is still playing your game at this point, there's a good chance they're going to stick around. But without that, the sheen or the veneer of the early game here, this is where a lot of people are going to stop playing the game because they're not getting that rush anymore. And the base game or the base systems aren't enough to excite them. Why should they stick around? For myself, this is where a lot of the mobile and free-to-play games I've been playing over the last few months have kind of just lost me. Great, I got all these super rare 5-star, 6-star, SSR, whatever you want to call them, characters, but the gameplay's boring the hell out of me. Why should I keep playing? And I start to not play daily, and then it's just delete from my phone, delete from the computer, and we never talk about it again. And this is again why so many developers, especially in the mobile space, pay very close attention to the middle of their game, especially to UI and quality of life issues, because this is where they're going to start to really grind against the player. Again, we're not focusing on the spectacle of the game anymore. We're focused on actually playing this game. And if the UI is cumbersome, if it's hard to find information, the game just doesn't look good to play, well, those are all strikes against a title, and it's going to stop people from getting into it. Now, the mid portion of the game should last a little bit longer. Usually, you should be in this phase, definitely again, by, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks of playing the game tops. And the 2-week point is very important. When I interviewed Ramin, we spoke about how most people will not fully commit to a game until at least they hit the 2-week, 15, 16-day period of play. And again, that is playing it daily. If you can't even get people to play your game daily for like a week, then something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. And then the final portion of playing these games is the end or late game. So this is when the player has hit max level or whatever your super final ranking is, and that kind of progression has stopped. Instead, what happens is that we are now focusing on essentially the horizon of playing this game. Am I going to be grinding PvP battles? Am I going to be trying to perfect my teams? Am I trying to get all the super rare characters? Is there some super final, incredibly monstrous challenge in this game? And this is where, again, progression becomes essentially peaks and valleys. Because I already have a full team of characters. So now it's about just kind of these little pushes of power. Maybe I get that final ultimate relic that a character needs. Or I roll that 6-star ultimate or 5-star great character. So, at this point, the player is in it. They are fully immersed in this game, and they're going to probably be playing it well into months, maybe even years, depending upon how much content there is, unless something just outright shocks them out of it, like the game ends, or developers completely change their monetization model, and so on and so on. And this is, again, the point where people spend big. This is where these games become a daily play for a lot of people. And when we talk about the idea of whales and the whole addiction of spending money in these games, this is the point where it happens in its fullest, because we're no longer deciding whether or not we're playing this game. We are playing this game daily. And I know a few of you out there have probably hit that point in several games. So here's my question for those of you watching this. What mobile game are you playing? Any mobile or free-to-play games right now? And how long did you play it before you committed to it? And if you did quit a game, let me know how long you played that one until you kind of broke free from it. But the point is that when most people think about progression, especially in MMO games, it's always the real game begins at X. You can't do all the cool stuff until level 30, 60. I need to get to endgame raids. That was a really fun part about World of Warcraft, that you couldn't do anything along those lines until you hit max level. What mobile games and that kind of market does today is say, the real game begins at level 1, and we're just going to keep giving you more and more stuff as you keep playing. And this is why these games are so great at getting people to play. Like we said, the first 5 to 7 days of playing a new mobile game is going to be just an excitement of progress and new content and gotchas and 5 stars and 7 stars and how many stars that you want. And this is how we began to see this kind of changing of the demographic of people who play mobile games. And we're going to be coming back to that in kind of the third part of this video. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how pay to win has transformed into pay for utility, and what that means for monetization and game design in today's market. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. When we talk about mobile design, especially in the early days of the market blowing up, we discuss how these games were built essentially to annoy the player into spending money. Pay-or-weight mechanics, energy, as one of my favorite terms, fun pain, which I think that's pretty safely extreme right there, and of course pay to win. And those worked for a long time. But what we're seeing today, and from some of the better examples like Genshin, Arc Knights, and again a few other big ones, I think Exo's Heroes may be gaining ground as well, is that it's no longer about paying for power, but paying for utility, or more specifically, customization. So what that means is that these games still feature a rarity system. Again, usually it's 5 stars, it could be SSR, depends on the game itself. But power levels remain generally consistent in terms of pure numbers between these various abilities. Yes, a 5-star will have higher base stats, but anything can be boosted to become a viable option. This is one of the issues that Marvel's Contest of Champions ran into, that their power levels are locked by their star system. In Genshin and Arc Knights and whatever, I can take a 2 or 3 star character or weapon and upgrade that and refine it and augment and do anything else I want to it, that I could use that for high or end game level content. Now, obviously, if I do get a 5 or 6 star super rare, yes, that will do things a lot quicker, but I'm not as required or held to it. So, by removing the power restriction or the power requirement, developers these days focus on utility. So in Genshin Impact here, every character is unique in terms of what their kit or their set of abilities provides. And that means that it allows them to design these characters to respond and behave differently, and sets things up for something more powerful than just the power chase. And that is customizing your team and your strategies. Again, power is limiting. Okay, I've gone from 500 points of health to 550. Whoop-de-doo. But if I pull a character that completely synergizes with my strategy, and now my team is now so much more better because of it, that is amazing. So let's say, for instance, I'm building a team of buffers and debuffers, and a new 6-star character will enhance all buff durations by 200%. Well, you damn better well believe I'm going to be spending big on that banner to get that character. And this is what Arknights does really well. That is a game where every character is essentially a tower on the field. But even though they all belong to fixed classes, the higher rarity characters have unique options that kind of lead to class breaking or almost duo class abilities. So you could have a tank who can also use magic damage, or a range character who can also stun and attack in melee. And again, these individual abilities are not overpowered on their own. Instead, it allows the player to figure out where they want to go in terms of this customization and in terms of this creativity. And speaking as a strategy and RPG fan, that is very addicting for us, as anyone who's played a Disgaea or an SRPG can certainly attest to. And the beauty about this is that it retains the viability of these characters and items far longer compared to early mobile and free-to-play games. A 5-star character who has a max power of 500 2 years ago is probably not going to be as good of a pool today if max 5-star characters now go up to 1,000 or 2,000. But if a character from a year ago has a unique set of abilities that nobody else has, that character can stay viable for a very, very long time. And this is why, or this is how these games can lead into why these banners or when a character returns can be a moment of excitement. Because if a character that many people consider to be so amazing is now back for a 2-week period, you better believe people are going to be spending serious money to get that person. And even with Genshin Impact here, the weapons fall along those lines as well, with the 4-star and higher weapons having unique modifiers that go along with them. So it's not, again, just about power. It's about allowing players to figure out, how do I break this game in a way that I want to do it? And one of the biggest tells that in many of these games, a full crew of 6-star characters is not going to be an instant win. Because you need to make sure everybody works together. And if you don't do that, and of course you don't learn these systems, you can pull every super rare character that you want or SSR, it's not going to do anything for you. And this design has led into this change of the market, of what it means to make, play, and design a mobile game today. And with that said, we're going to do something a little bit differently for this video. Yep, we're back to me. I didn't want to have anything on the screen here to distract you from our final point. Now, we don't play a lot of mobile games here on the stream or on the channel, and first of all, I want to ask if you guys want to see that. There's always BlueStacks as an emulation available option to show off more of these games here. So let me know in the comments below. But for the final point today, I want to talk a little bit more about why or what the mobile market means today. Because a lot of people, I know probably a lot of you watching this, still think about mobile games like Farmville, like Clash of Clans, and the Endless Runners, and the Angry Birds, and the Flappy Birds, and all the other kinds of birds that you can think of. But that's not where we're at today. 10 years ago, most people think about mobile games as the thing you let your grandma and your grandpa play. Something for mom and dad, or, the occasional play when you're busy and you just need a few minutes to kill. And that's not what people think about with mobile games today. That worked 5 to 10 years ago. But the problem that a lot of developers had, of course, was retaining those people. If you're only playing these games for 10 minutes a day, that's not really a huge investment. Yes, you're going to get those those whales, the people who are going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that market for that kind of audience was shrinking. And part of the reason, of course, is that when you have these mega dominant games, again, like King's Offering, Rovio, and so on, there wasn't room to capitalize in that market space with a similar game. So today, the very best mobile developers focus on core gamers. They want the people who are going to play a game like Fortnite daily, or Fall Guys, the people who are hooked on Among Us, or those who are playing Call of Duty, Madden, or any game that has a seasonal or annual base kind of amount of content, daily or very regularly. Because those are the people who become long-term fans. And those are the ones who are going to stick with the game and have the greatest chance of spending money. And if you don't believe me, any of the games that we have mentioned in this video in terms of their mega popularity today, look them up on YouTube or anywhere that you're watching videos or streamers and see the big name people who play these games. And you can see just how much money they have spent and how much time they have in these games. And while they are, the tip of the very top in terms of that market, there are a lot of people who are just like them, who are spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get that very amazing 6-star character, or that perfect item that if I put onto my character, then I can play, top 100 on my server in PvP, or I can complete that new ultra challenging mega endgame dungeon that has the exclusive skin or the exclusive new character, that if I get that, I can then build a team around that one with all these other characters I have collected. And like we've said, it's not about a casual market anymore. The people who play these games at the end game, they are as hardcore as they come. I watch people who play Marvel Contest of Champions, who are doing these super challenging dungeons or the end game levels that can take months of playing and optimizing a team to have a chance at winning. I saw people who played Arknights who have full 6-star or 5-star teams, and they are doing some of the hardest stuff in that game that can take months if you know what you're doing to reach that point. And even with that, they are still spending money on the newest characters and the newest items because they are committed to these games. And like we said in the first part, when you hit that end game, most likely you are in it for the entirety of that game. For me, I'm having a lot of trouble finding mobile games like that because I tend to fall out of favor with them in the mid-game. Arknights has come the closest, I would say. I'm still trying to find that other game to get into. So if there are any other suggestions, let me know in the comments. But like we've said, the mobile market is no longer targeting casual gamers, or at least the games that are blowing up these days. Again, Arknights, Exos Heroes, Genshin Impact, and a few other ones. These games are targeting core gamers. And if you are an indie developer right now working on a mobile game and you're thinking to yourself, I can just, let me elevate Jetpack Joyride, or I can make the best Idle game, or the best Clash of Clans clone. If you try to do that today, you're going to find a market that the people who are playing those games are already playing the big name ones and they are entrenched, and everybody else is doing their own thing. So, With that said, thanks so much for watching this video. Again, let me know what you think about having mobile games here on the channel. And any topics to suggest for a future piece, let me know in the comments or check out our Discord. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where he's in the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.